Welcome to Recap Our Studio.
Welcome back to Recaps Our Studio. Today I'll show you Invasion, a 2020 Russian sci-fi film. Watch careful for spoilers and proceed with caution. 3 years have passed since the aliens came on Earth unannounced. The planet's defenses are being strengthened, with the United States, Russia, and China leading the way. A new satellite is being sent into orbit above Earth to monitor outer space, ensuring that no extraterrestrial object sneaks up on the globe again. As the satellite opens, a bizarre extraterrestrial spacecraft with tentacle-like components can be seen moving. Suddenly, a shuttle detaches and goes to Earth, entering the atmosphere. Meanwhile, a fishing boat can be seen somewhere in the water, with guys working and conversing. One of them notices the alien shuttle descend as he stares out over the lake. He doesn't tell the others what he observed. The shuttle may then be seen moving underwater like a submarine. Yulia is spotted running with her dog 4 months later. As they approach an apartment complex, the dog flees and does not return her calls. She asks the guys who are with her to assist her in finding him. Later, when she is in robotics class, her acquaintance inquires about some fresh laboratory findings. She informs him that if she divulges any information, her guards would be forced to kill him on the spot after the session. Yuli, his buddy, attempts to communicate his feelings for her, but she knows he'll be safer if they stay friends. Her bodyguards accompany them to her father's automobile. Her father, a general innovator, speaks to a buddy he refers to as Google. The youngster boasts that he works in Australia and that he may be dropped off there. He enters the building, and when security requests his ID, it reveals that he is just an intern. Meanwhile, Yulia and her father are continuing on the road, and he teases her about breaking her out and transporting her to another country where she may hide. She does not want him suspended. They arrive to a Russian Ministry of Defense research center where a robot has been observed ripping through the doors and wrecking a vehicle. Usually, his father asks a scientist at the lab about it. The scientist says that it is a kind of biotechnology. The fact that the robot is operated by a person conversing with him disproves the widespread belief that it is a Russian alien CO creation. The scientist goes on to say that Yulia is the key to understanding how everything works. Meanwhile, Yulia is participating in an experiment, where the main scientist interrogates her about her encounter with the extraterrestrial spacecraft and monitors her reactions, not just her answers. When he asks her about her friend who died in the encounter, her heart rate spikes, and when he asks why she helped the alien, they ask her about her boyfriend Archie home. And she becomes agitated because she is unable to respond. The lover is abruptly dragged into the lab. When he begins chatting to her, she becomes enraged and tells the scientists to halt the experiment and get her out. As she struggles to read through her bindings, he apologizes for murdering her. As he continues to speak, when the scientist encourages him, a massive burst of power occurs. Her father rushes inside the lab and pulls her from the pool, as Archie home is being led and wonders why he's being held while she is free. Later, Yulia and her father chat, and she begs him to let her be alone for a bit, away from her guards and everyone else. He accepts and goes, only to be met by a soldier named Ivan, who informs him that he will have to work a night shift and change into some ordinary clothing. Yulia is drinking in a pub that night. She notices Ivan and buys him a drink to let him know she's paying attention, so he joins her at the bar. She gives him a drink before they go, but a second guy enters and tells them they must leave. The guy introduces himself as Hakan and requests that Yulia accompany him. Ivan and Hakan start fighting against her wishes, but Yulia smacks the soldier over the head, knocking him unconscious. Her and Hakan leave the bar and summon an extraterrestrial spacecraft. It follows them and gets them a ride, directing them to a vehicle with 2 occupants. It takes control of the digitalized automobile and begins driving it. Saul converses with them while Ivan closes in on them. The automobile manages to push Ivan aside and drives away, taking care not to hit anybody else on the road. Ivan pursues them again on a motorbike and phones the bailiff to tell him of the situation. The general instructs him to follow them but begins evacuating the Ministry of Defense laboratory under the guise that the aliens had returned to Earth. We're back in the automobile. Hakan informs Yulia that she is in danger since they went too far with the trials, and that they must go immediately. The automobile is driving and almost smashes a man before stopping in front of him and instructing the other occupants to get out. Hakan and Yulia are still in the automobile. Ivan chases them down and shoots one of the wheels. He causes an automobile accident, but his spirit follows him from above and saves him. Ivan phones the general to inform him that he has lost them. Saul takes Hakan and Yulia to an isolated location in the woods. She steps in unwillingly, but is welcomed by her dog, who is also there. Yulia informs Hakan that she believed he had died. He seems to be the extraterrestrial she assisted in the prior encounter. He claims that everything went wrong the last time. They enter the home and discuss about how long he's been on Earth. He assures her that he has acclimated to the planet's life. Someone knocks on Yulia's door, and when she answers it, it's Google. She's furious, despite what he attempted to tell her before. Hakan informs her that he was meant to depart after the initial meeting, but he defied procedure and remained on Sol near Earth. They kiss and make love as Sulla changes shape. It becomes raw. Yulia contacts her father the following morning to inform him she's with Hakan. She tells him she needs to depart since she no longer belongs on Earth and requests him not to tell anybody. Nonetheless, the broad commands are intended to monitor her signal. Yulia enters the home, where Hakan awaits her with breakfast. Meanwhile, a tactical squad has encircled the home and is preparing to assault it, with Hakan and Yulia inside. General Innovative orders them to stand down, but Ra intercepts the phone and orders them to fire to death. The unit enters the home pocket and fights off a couple of the troops before fleeing with the two of them. His ship has been activated and is waiting for them on the riverbank. Hakan jumps in, but the unit pursues them and shoots Yulia as she enters the spacecraft, Hawk, and flees. Suddenly, an order to fire a missile against them is received. However, Hakan intercepts the missile in mid-flight. The spacecraft, however, is still damaged and falls through the sky and into the river Hawk, attempting to reach Sol, but Rod informs him that Julian must be slain before it can fix his ship. He rejects, and Ron informs him that he must be killed by the general, and Ivan attempts to catch up to them, getting various types of misunderstanding that Ra has intercepted. They discover that Space Defense is pursuing the spacecraft, with a general perplexed as to who issued the order. Helicopters can be seen racing into the river, switching to battle mode, and firing at the ship. Back in the building, Archie Home fools his guard and gains access to the robot, steals it, and flees in it. He arrives at a river bridge and learns that there is a unit pursuing the ship, preparing to shoot them down. The ship floats across the ocean but is attacked by two helicopters. It flies out of the water and descends into the air, trailed by water. It eventually smashes to the earth. When Archie Home in the robot suit rushes at one of the helicopters and tears it to bits, they are in position to receive the kill order from Raw. On the floor, the general arrives at the ship and proceeds to look for Yulia. However, she and Hakan have already fled. When they locate Arjayam, he brings her to an ambulance and promises them he'll fetch a doctor for her. However, Hakan informs him that all she needs is water. Archie Home flags down a vehicle, and they take it while driving, leaving the owner behind. Hakan describes Soul's strength and how it may manipulate human technology. When Archie Home asks what it wants, he says it merely wants to get rid of Yulia. Meanwhile, Leah's father travels to the Ministry of Defense, where a special meeting has been called. He stormed the conference, demanding to know why such instructions were issued when they were following the ship. The vice premier informs him he's out of line and orders him to sit down. Then he demanded that the Space Defense justify its activities. They claim the instructions came from the general, and a tape of the general issuing the order is played. The vice premier directs that the news be shown at the meeting, showing the destruction caused by the pursuit in Moscow. The media is blaming Yulia for what occurred in play by playing a deep-fake video of her that portrays her as a terrorist on the side of the aliens attacking the city. They discovered that not just the video, but also the whole news program, is a hoax aired from somewhere other than a TV station. The general informs them that the aliens are responsible. He requested reprisal, but the vice premier says he requires proof to substantiate such behavior. In the interim, the General Lobate has requested that specific protocols be put in place, stating that only analog technology should be utilized for all communication. The vice premier agrees, and preparations for the switch begin at the same time. Hakan Arjayam, Yulia grab to a shop and get her some water. Hakan walks inside to purchase it. When he finds the correct kind of water and proceeds to the register. The phones of everyone begin to ring. Everyone in the shop is discussing Yulia and a probable terrorist strike. As Hakan returns to the vehicle, everyone starts receiving the same message about her: they need to locate her and kill her. A lady in the next vehicle recognizes Yulia and alerts a nearby police patrol about her. As the cops close down on them, Art Joan drives away. While escorting the ship back to the Ministry of Defense, Ivan receives the same message. The phony communication informs him that Yulia's assault has damaged his kid. All internet media is inundated with raw material on Yulia, making her public enemy number one. As a police officer comes to Google and asks about Yulia, his grandma sends the officer away, and when they lock the door, he wonders where he hid his buddies. They were hiding in the closet. Our chairman Hawkins then submerges Yulia and the water hawk and informs him that she is no longer human. He claims that suffering is altering her and making her extraordinarily, if not dangerously, strong. Russia believes that destroying her will rescue everyone else from her power, which is why it wants to destroy her. Later, Google and Archie Home purposely intoxicate Hawking and decide to transport him to the Ministry of Defense. Arjayam gives Google no option in the matter. When they arrive, Julia's father awaits them, preparing to murder them. Google finally breaks down and tells him where his daughter is. He approaches Hakan and demands him to reveal Ra's locations, which are only known to him, and warns him that he must choose between her and his people. Ivan attempts unsuccessfully to contact his wife. As the general steps in, he sees the news about Yulia and tells his soldiers to assemble an observatory and a satellite using the coordinates he obtained from Hakan. The general orders Ivan to find Yulia and bring her to him without notifying anybody else. When the observatory finds Ra, the general calls the vice premier to discuss the next steps. They decide to engage with it violently but need to destroy a satellite so that it doesn't catch up to what they're doing and create different problems. The military sends Google to Australia.com to take down their satellite. Once the satellite is down, they will only have a few seconds before it reboots. They will destroy Rob with a super secret weapon that the vice premier pretends they don't even have, even though they do. The general convinces him that they have no other choice. Meanwhile, Yulia wakes up in the tub. Her wounds are gone. She gets ready to leave Google's grandmother's apartment when Ivan shows up at the door. He's driving her someplace, but she doesn't know that he thinks she's to blame for the attacks. He confronts her with the information, threatening her that if his son dies, so will she. The general gives the order to launch the special missile and destroy the satellite as well. They wait for the missile to destroy Ra and rejoice when it's done. But the general isn't convinced. He wants a full report and a visual confirmation to make sure the alien spaceship is destroyed. In the meantime, people gather on the streets and demand for Yulia as prosecution. Ivan is driving her through the crowd. He still doesn't believe her, but he eventually takes her to the ministry to her father and the others. Ivan is disappointed with the general and quits on the spot. Hakan uses a phone to communicate with Ra. It tells him that it is ready for retribution. Since it doesn't believe humans are worthy of anything. Ra tells Hawking that he can fly back, but he declines, still believing in mankind. The powerful spaceships starts a process of destruction on the planet seen from everywhere, including the tower of the Ministry of Defense. Ra is angry at the humans for trying to use its technology to create weapons. Like Yulia creates a massive water dome around the area of Moscow where she is and starts flooding the inside of the walls. The military tries everything, but they can't destroy the dome. They start evacuating people only to tell them that their only hope is to go as high up as they can remain on the roofs of the buildings. The general tells Hawking to grab Yulia and get her to the chopper on the roof. So he gets her an archium there and inside of the helicopter but remains in the dome hall